Hello, hello. I am back again for another Monday. You might be seeing me more often. We were at one point still going into work to record videos on our iPad and that sort of thing, and that unfortunately has stopped with this stay-at-home order. So I have a lot of audio and video equipment, so you might be seeing me in place of other folks. But yeah, I hope everyone is hanging in there and doing well. I'm trying to schedule my days out. I found a really good, starts at 9 a.m. and ends at 12 a.m. schedule. I've been putting in something for each hour to do. And that's been kind of helpful. Also, just been playing a lot of Animal Crossing on my Switch, so. I did want to say my little cousin made me this delicious drink. I don't know if you've seen around the whipped coffee. It is actually completely delicious. So if you would like to see me attempt to record in my kitchen, let me know in any of the comments and any of the areas this will be going up in, and I will attempt to move my studio setup over to my kitchen and have my cousin teach me how to make this whipped coffee. But it's really good. I've also been crocheting. I am working on a blanket. I found a really cool scarf pattern. I will link it on the Facebook. But it's going to it gets woven in with another color. So you weave a contrasting color in between all these little squares. So it's supposed to be a scarf, but I am making it a blanket. So that's the width. And now I'm working on the length. So it was chain 206. And I'll be doing 101 rows of that. Maybe longer, we'll see. But I might have that done by next week to show y'all. For today's reading, sorry, you can get more comfortable. I actually grabbed, I'm really surprised my green screen's not blurring this out. We have a short story machine over in our teen room, and it's got a bunch of something really short fiction. There's someone called a small fiction on Twitter. I can already see this is one of his. I'm gonna open this one up. I have no idea what I grabbed out of the short story machine, but I grabbed like 10 or 15 or something to read today, because I've already done the research on these, and as long as I attribute the sources, I'm good to read these. So this one is from a small fiction collection on Twitter. So it's twitter.com/a-small-fiction. So you can see this is the entire story. His name is James Miller, and he writes so that all of his stories fit in 140 characters on Twitter. So that's pretty cool. I can't write quite that small yet. I'll grind your bones to make my bread, shouted the giant. Ew, use flour, said Jack. Oh, I never learned to bake. I'll teach you. They're like that. Like, they're usually dialogue driven, and they're really cute. All right, so let's see what else we got here. This one is Family Gathering by Sama Lynn. Fun fact, about half the things in here are me, because I own the copyright to my own writing. Oh, we might have a special guest. We might have a special guest. You wanna come here? Yeah, baby girl? Here. Okay. You see her tail. You see her tail. You see the top of her head. Yeah, you wanna say hi? She is shy. She doesn't like being picked up and handled. So no, you don't wanna show your face. You just wanna show your tail. Show your pretty tail. Oh God. Okay, goodbye. Maybe? No, not goodbye. Goodbye. Okay. Family Gathering. Zeus wasn't sure who he had to kill. He needed to ground, not murder, for this outrageous idea. Thanksgiving wasn't even in their culture. It might have been manageable if it had only been his favorite family members, a very small and intimate gathering indeed, or only his offspring from specific people. Even just limiting it to his immortal family would have been an immense but manageable occasion. Hephaestus, I can't say that word, wow. I wrote this a long time ago. Hephaestus, leave my silverware alone. That's not impressing me, Orion. Leave my wife alone, whelp. Zeus sighed. The great hall of the extravagant hotel rang with a cacophony of arguments and merriments. At least no one noticed when just one large man slipped out the grand doors for some peace and quiet. Several others had done so for less solitary reasons. Woe on whoever asked Zeus, father of gods and mortals, to try out this awesome thing called Christmas. Back in here. Nope. It's like, this looks empty. Nope, it's just another small fiction. Nope, come back here. Ta-da! The dog's tail wagged. It was his tail's job to synchronize all nearby moods to the measure of his joy. A metronome of happiness. I like that one a lot. Da-da-da. Oh, this one looks really beefy. Does not look like my longest one, though. Oh, maybe it is. Oh, that's pretty big. Collage of the author. Also by me, I'm sorry. The scenery all around me creaked. The wooden torii gate that marked the entrance of the shrine, the bamboo that bobbed with the wind, the legs of the cicada. Incense burned somewhere nearby, reminding me of a perfume I'd made with a science kit as a kid. Jasmine and lily of the valley and heliotrope, 1 part each, maybe with a hint of cinnamon. Between that and the scent of the cherry blossoms and the wet grass, the shrine smelled of cheap cologne with too many ingredients. I breathed in the cologne and damp air and mist from the waterfall, feeling the drops dance on my tongue. Sorry. There we go. Your hair is so long and beautiful, the strangers always say. Aren't you hot? I sat down in the sand. It was hotter than the air. Nope, just comfortable. Mom's friend Meg crouched beside me. Even in that getup. My outfit must have seemed out of place on the beach. A long pink skirt, a Sailor Moon tank top, a pink jacket, black half gloves, and pink woolen leg warmers, which tucked into black Mary Janes. I shrugged, pulling on my braid, pulling apart split ends. I just don't like sand on my skin. I don't do beaches very much. Aren't you Floridian? Through and through. But we don't all spend our time lounging on beaches. Well, what do you do then? That's Floridian. I picked up a shell between my fingertips, wiping the sand off of my skirt before holding it up to study it. I go to Disney World every couple of years, and Universal once a year, with a few trips each year to Busch Gardens. So you're into the commercial world? The entertainment world. I gathered more shells. But going to parks and fishing and playing in the woods and stuff like that didn't sound too Floridian to me. They aren't kidding when they call these places hot springs. The steam still wafts over me as I retrieve my towel and wrap it around me. The hot flush on my cheeks covers up the self-conscious blush that's covered my face since I took off my robe. Suppose I'm lucky only Mom and a few other girls from the tour group decided to be in the springs right then. I think I would have ran off without the experience if there were natives in there too. The towel barely makes it around my bust and refuses to meet clothes around my hips. It's meant just for drying, and Japanese women are too petite to have any need for a larger towel. Finding my way back to the dressing room without tripping on the uneven stone floor is a challenge. The steam is so thick I can't tell where it begins and my own awful 20/50 vision begins. I hold my hands in front of me and pray to the gods that I won't accidentally grope someone. I've read enough Japanese comics to know that won't end well. I make it to the dressing room without incident. I gave Mom and the others a head start, so there's no one in here. It was bad enough with the curtain of steam. I pat myself dry and grab the robe. A quick glance about. Still no one here. And I drop the towel. I get the right arm on when I hear murmurs in Japanese. I spin around and there's an old Japanese woman, just like the Asian grandmothers from children's picture stories. Kind, half-closed eyes and all. She's looking at me, staring at me, and I can't help but do the same because she's naked too. My robe dangles off my arm, but for some reason I don't blush. It's like telling a secret to a bartender just to get it off your chest. Refreshing, but not embarrassing. Then she speaks, and I can tell it's a struggle for her to speak her English understandably. Beautiful, she says. You beautiful. Those were all real things that happened in my life. Goodbye. Fell off my desk. The first book I write, maybe. There's an extra cap. I want that to be my about the author. I had to fix it though. I don't have that long hair anymore. Growing it back out. But I don't have it right now. Is this another small fiction? It sure is. My other cat is staring at me. I caught a ghost! Did you? Where is it? Wherever I go, of course. So it's not caught. You're haunted. She said you'd say that. I like that one a lot too. I love ghost stories. I love ghost stories an awful lot. All right, what have we here? It's another big one. Oh, it's a Neil Gaiman one. Nope, I scared my cat away. Little Triggers. Introduction to Trigger Warning by Neil Gaiman. Trigger Warning's really good. It's not one of the ones I read because I don't own it here and I forgot to check it out from the library. There are things that upset us. That's not quite what we're talking about here though. I'm thinking about those images or words or ideas that drop like trapdoors beneath us, throwing us out of our safe, sane world into a place much more dark and less welcoming. Our hearts skip a rat-a-tat-tat drumbeat in our chests, and we fight for breath. Blood retreats from our faces and our fingers, leaving us pale and gasping and shocked. And what we learn about ourselves in these moments where the trigger has been squeezed is this: the past is not dead. There are things that wait for us patiently in the dark corridors of our lives. We think we have moved on, put them out of our minds, left them to desiccate and shrivel and blow away. But we are wrong. They have been waiting there in the darkness, working out, practicing their most vicious blows. Their sharp, hard, thoughtless punches into the gut, killing time until we came back that way. The monsters in our cupboards and our minds are always there in the darkness, like mold beneath the floorboards and behind the wallpaper, and there is so much darkness and an inexhaustible supply of darkness. The universe is amply supplied with night. What do we need to be warned about? We each have our little triggers. I first encountered the phrase trigger warning on the internet, where it existed primarily to warn people of links to images or ideas that could upset them and trigger flashbacks of anxiety or terror, in order that the images or ideas could be filtered out of a feed, or that the person reading could be mentally prepared before encountering them. I was fascinated when I learned that trigger warnings had crossed the divide from the internet to the world of things you could touch. Several colleges, it was announced, were considering putting trigger warnings on works of literature, art, or film. Oh, you can't hear that, I don't think. There's a thing in my room going off. It likes to go off a lot for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. To warn students of what was waiting for them, an idea that I found simultaneously warming to. Of course you want to let people who may be distressed that this might distress them, while at the same time being deeply troubled by it. When I wrote Sandman and it was being published as a monthly comic, it had a warning on each issue, telling the world it was suggested for mature readers, which I thought was wise. It told potential readers this was not a children's comic and it might contain ideas or images that could be troubling, and also suggests that if you are mature, whatever that happens to mean, you are on your own. As for what they would find that might disturb them or shake them or make them think something they had never thought before, I felt that was their own to look out for. We are mature, we decide what to read or do not read. But so much of what we read as adults should be read, I think, with no warnings or alerts beyond perhaps. We need to find out what fiction is, what it means to us, an experience that is going to be unlike anyone else's experience of the story. We build the stories in our heads, we take words and we give them power, and we look out through other eyes and see and experience what they see. I wonder, are fictions safe places? And then I ask myself, should they be safe places? There are stories I read as a child I wished once I had read them that I had never encountered because I was not ready for them and they upset me. Stories which contained helplessness, in which people are embarrassed or mutilated, in which adults are made vulnerable and parents could be of no assistance. They troubled me and haunted my nightmares and my daydreams, worried and upset me on profound levels, But they also taught me that if I was going to read fiction, sometimes I would only know what my comfort zone was by leaving it. And now, as an adult, I would not erase the experience of having read them if I could. There are still things that profoundly upset me, whether I encounter them. There are things that still... Sorry. Take two. There are still things that profoundly upset me when I encounter them, whether it's on the web, or the word, or in the world. They never get easier, never stop my heart from trip-trapping, never let me escape, this time unscathed. But they teach me things, and they open my eyes, and if they hurt in ways that make me think and grow and change. I wondered, reading about the college discussions, whether one day people would put a trigger warning on my fiction. I wondered whether or not they would be justified in doing it. And then I decided to do it first. There are things in this book, as in life, that might upset you. There is death and pain in here, tears and discomfort, violence of all kinds, cruelty, even abuse. There is kindness too, I hope, sometimes. Even a handful of happy endings. Few stories end unhappily for all participants, after all. And there's more than that. I know a lady called Rocky who is upset by tentacles and who genuinely needs warnings for things that have tentacles in them, especially tentacles with suckers, and who, confronted with an unexpected squid or octopus, will dive shaking behind the nearest sofa. There is an enormous tentacle somewhere in these pages. Many of these stories end badly for at least one of the people in them. Consider yourself warned. I actually did trigger warnings for a book club for Ales and Tales, which we have a Goodreads account for. I will link that as well. I should start making a list of all the things I say I'm going to link. But we're doing online discussions for our Ales and Tales books. So I will link that in the description. And struggle to open this. There we go. I guess it's getting very messy over here. Ba, ba, ba. An excerpt from Gem and Dixie by Sarah Czar. Find it in the teen room under YA Czar. Where are we going? Dixie would ask. The forest, I'd say. Or space. She never questioned me. We need to pack survival rations, I'd tell her. What's that? Food and water and gum and stuff. She'd help me make butter and jelly sandwiches on soft white bread. If we had chocolate chips, we'd sprinkle those into and mash the bread down hard so they wouldn't fall out. I'd lift her to the kitchen sink so she could fill a bottle with water and roll up a beach towel. Then we put it all into the picnic basket, which was really just a paper grocery bag on which I'd drawn a basket weave pattern with a green marker, badly, crookedly. We would put on our jackets and shoes, and I'd make her close her eyes, and I'd lead her around the apartment and spin her in circles and then say, "We're here. Open your eyes." I knew, and she knew, we weren't in space or the forest or Narnia or anywhere other than our shitty apartment. Still, when she opened her eyes, they'd go big and bright. She was good at make-believe. My favorite thing was how she always skipped into whatever fantasy place we'd gone to. As soon as her eyes were open, she'd start skipping all around the living room and up and down the hall. We're in space, I might say. You can't skip in space. I can. Okay, but you can only skip really slow in space because there's no gravity. Mid-skip, she'd switch to slow motion and try to make her arms and legs more floaty. Then she'd get tired of it and get hot in her jacket and say it was time to go home. No, we're not going home. We're never going home. I don't remember when I started saying that part. She'd stop squirming. What about Mom and Daddy? We'll leave a note. Then we'd spread the beach towel on the living room floor, and if I forgot to bring crayons or markers to space, I'd run into our room and get them, and we'd draw a goodbye note, our stick figures flying up to the moon and holding hands as we waved goodbye forever to our parents. Dixie liked to draw stars behind our heads like halos. She used to play along. She used to believe everything I told her and do anything I said. She used to need me to take care of her, and I liked doing it. I liked doing it because I thought I was the one who could, even though nobody was taking care of me. I believe that's the opening to Gem and Dixie. All right. Oh, here's where the extra top was for. One's already open. All right. Long Love, Sam Lynn. This one is 2 parts. Missing You, Persephone. Sephi! I ignore the pleading of my half-sisters, the muses, who haven't seen fit to mature. They want to play. I want to brood. I press my hand against the window overlooking the fields. The rows of corn are too perfectly straight. I miss the messier look of the old days. They've made nature sterile. Persephone! I wince to hear Mother's disappointed voice. They only have today to visit. Attend to them. Mother insists I take time to visit with everyone. Every year. I wish they'd space it out. They've had thousands of years to get used to this arrangement. But so have I. I still miss my family when I'm with Hades. And I miss him whenever I'm with them. I force a smile and turn in time to catch Callie as she pounces me. I'll miss her later, I tell myself, returning the hug with half my heart. Forever, Hades. Forever seemed much shorter thousands of years ago. Hades adjusted his blazer, hands moving awkwardly. He didn't like being away from his realm. Towering buildings had replaced lush forests, pavements had replaced soft dirt paths, machines had replaced warm bonds. He never bothered to keep his own realm up to date. He enjoyed the confusion on the faces of deceased mortals. He didn't enjoy this fetching of his wife. Hadn't for many years. His sharp fist rapped on the harsh metal door of her apartment. It burned his knuckles, but he bit inside his lip and let no flinch show. Persephone opened the door. You're nearly late. Her lips drew back in a hard frown, straight and cold as the building. He wanted to say how much he missed the mischief and fire in her eyes. One day I shall be, he said, just to see the world burn in an eternal summer. I actually finished that story, this one, this part here, which is upside down, this part here. It is now a full-fledged short story. I have a lot of Persephone and Hades short stories. All right. Behind the curtain, Sam Lynn. I hurried backstage after bows. Hurried's a strong word. I limped with as much speed as I could muster without catching my stupidly high heels on a wire and falling fantastically. I made it backstage in one piece. The feeling didn't last long. I stumbled. A pair of hands steadied me. Then my father's arms wrapped around me. I returned it. Did you like it? I whispered, hoping to like the answer. Well, the first act lost me, and you could have moved a little more in yes or no, Dad, I sighed. I prefer yes tonight and no because tomorrow. It was great, honey. I smiled brightly, my cheek brushing against my headset. And I've got a surprise for you. The smile strengthened. He always got me the most beautiful bouquets. The curtain separating us from the audience rustled, and my stepmother holding a bouquet stepped through. That smile, that sense of doing something right, something good, wouldn't return for days. A lot of these are ending really bleh. Another small fiction. Look how baby it is. It's so baby. A little rain cloud seemed to follow him wherever he went. That was okay. Looking back, he could see everything his rain had helped to grow. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Down to 7. Running out of places to put these over there. A Tale of Hope by Veleka Georgieva, retrieved from everywriterresource.com. Some years ago, a baby was born. It was a girl and they named it Hope. Hope had 2 parents and many friends, and she had hopes and dreams and wishes and desires. And she was happy. She had a future as bright as the sun. She was smart and funny and as beautiful as the moon itself. And people adored her, and she was light, and light was heat, and heat was light, was life. Hope was life. She grew into a lovely young lady. She was as fair as a fairy with long golden hair and soft brown eyes. She grew into a friend. She grew into a sister. She grew into love. But not love to one. She was love itself. The very feeling of being alive. Hope was love and love was life. She gave people the sweetest pleasure there could ever be. She added meaning to their life and showed them all its miracles and beauty. And then life wouldn't be simply existence anymore. It would be adventure. And many people would taste, and people would hear, and people would see, and people would feel it that way, and they'd be happy. Hope was happiness, and happiness was love, and love was life. And one day this fairy child met taint in the eye of a stranger. She couldn't recognize it at first, but it was there. It tempted her into greeting the stranger, and it seduced her into smiling at him. And hope was love, and she felt it then, love for the stranger who meant her only trouble. For she believed all people were good, and she was happy with that thought. And then hope was wrong. The stranger wasn't good, neither kind-hearted. He was destruction and war and fire. Fire was heat, but wasn't life. It wasn't light, it wasn't softness. It didn't possess the joy of a sun ray or the mildness of the moon. No, fire was an element, and light was a feeling. The one exists inside the beast, the other in the human. Hope didn't know Taint. But Taint didn't know Hope either. Hope reached to kiss him, Taint reached to kill her, neither of them knowing the power of the other. And thus they weaved each other into a deadly hug. They then became both goodness and evil, both life and death. In Taint some hopes were born, and in hope some dark thoughts. And together they were perfect, for no one deserves to be only bad, but it's too hard to be only good either. This looks like another small fiction. There you go. Space folding drives were invented for travel. As the science evolved, the folding became a form of art. A universe of space-time origami. They're often really, really cute. Opening these is so much fun. Nope. Find Me by Jessica Lally, retrieved from bbc.co.uk for their 500 words contest. The boy caressed the rusty key in his palm. Hours had passed scouring this unknown territory, a waste of time until he found his reward, this trophy. With the eagerness of an archaeologist, he rubbed away at the encrusted dirt until his grimy fingers revealed 2 words inscribed on the key shaft. Find me. The instant he stepped foot into the house again, all his senses marveled at the uniqueness of the manor. The sinewy fingers of stale pipe tobacco smoke crawled up into his nostrils, and the irritating sound of creaking chafed at his eardrums as he pounded the wooden floorboards searching for hidden curiosities. His mother had sunk into poverty since her husband had died in the Great War. A hard-working and trustworthy woman, she was fortunate to have been given the position of housekeeper by the owners of Pensfort Manor whilst they were traveling. Her son, an exuberant 9-year-old, short for his age but fearless nonetheless, was delirious to find himself free to roam the many formal gardens, orchards, and wilderness surrounding the manor, and play to his heart's content within the walls of the ambling house. Nimbly transversing the many corridors, the boy wandered into a room, yet undiscovered, and pondered over its impressive paintings with elaborate gilt frames which looked to him centuries old. Someone tapped him on the back. It was a delicate touch, more that of a child than an adult, but surely not his mother. There it was again, a gentle prod, undoubtedly real, for he felt fingernails pierce his shirt. He wove around to face a life-size portrait of a girl. She had flowing golden locks, peaceful blue eyes, but a sad, pale face full of longing and loneliness. In the background of the painting was a decaying oak door, with a rusting lock. The girl moved. He could swear on it. She seemed to be clawing at his hand. Why? He spread his palm out. Of course, the key! She smiled, but her eyes were bulging with hunger as she beckoned him hypnotically to come forward. The girl pointed eagerly to the lock in the door behind her. As he slid the key into it, a huge wave of light flooded out of the painting, engulfing him in his screams for help. "Son!" his mother called to him. No response. "Son?" All day she had searched every inch of the house in vain desperation before she remembered the deserted corridors of rooms the owners of the house had told her not to disturb. Her heart pounded as she retraced the boy's boot prints on the dusty floorboards. On entering the room, her eyes followed the footprints leading curiously up to the gloomy picture of the girl. She recoiled in horror as her eyes took in the scene before her. The girl's pale hand rested on the shoulder of a new companion, one that was not meant to be there. Her son. Okay. Oh, come on. Come on. There we go. White. Letty Neary Jones. Retrieved from bbc.co.uk for their 500 words contest. The victim. Blackness, nothing but blackness. Not a flicker, not even the tiniest spark. Just empty space stretching further and further, obscuring my memories, taking my thoughts. I don't fight it. I haven't got the strength. My mind seems weak and inconsistent and unimportant now. A swimming, blurry image emerges from the disappearing jumble at the edge of my mind. It's hazy, but I can make out a window, a car window, speckled with flakes of wet sleet and snow being whipped by the wind outside. Now an image comes and I'm speeding towards it faster and faster. The guilty. I feel dreadful staring at the operation in progress sign. I know it wasn't really my fault. I can't help it, replaying it in my mind, and suddenly I'm living it again. I was pulling out from my mum's house. Snow in fleets flew past like a thick fog. I was sure there was no one behind me, and suddenly the snow parted just like that, as if by an invisible hand, and it's too late to stop. Eyes wide, screaming, flashing lights. I can't take it. I cry. The helper. I check the instruments, making sure they haven't changed. The readings stay the same, for better or worse. She's in a coma. Unless she wakes up soon, she will probably stay the same forever. The man who hit her looks so guilty, as if it was his fault. A miracle's got to happen. The sorry. I've been waiting here for nearly 2 hours. About 5 minutes ago, I went to the desk to ask about the person before me. They don't know much, just that her name was Eddie Tucker, 13, and she suffered a possibly fatal head injury. Now I feel sorry for being impatient and want to feel sorry for her, but I won't. Sorry won't do her any good. The lucky. A flicker, a small spark grows into a flame. Emotions, memories, sensations all join until there's a blaze in my head burning bright. Leaping, fueled by my previously forgotten memories, it won't stop gushing through my mind. I can't keep any more inside my head. I can't. I open and see. It seems for the first time. Yep. Sit. Good job. Okay. Alright, I got 3 more stories. Whoop. Abitable. There was once, Margaret Atwood, retrieved from newworldwriting.net. There was once a poor girl as beautiful as she was good who lived with her wicked stepmother in a house in the forest. Forest? Forest is passé. I mean, I've had it with all this wilderness stuff. It's not a right image for our society today. Let's have something urban for a change. There was once a poor girl as beautiful as she was good who lived with her wicked stepmother in a house in the suburbs. That's better, but I have to seriously query this word poor. But she was poor. Poor is relative. She lived in a house, didn't she? Yes? Then socioeconomically speaking, she was not poor. But none of the money was hers. The whole point of the story is that the wicked stepmother makes her wear old clothes and sleep in the fireplace. Aha! They had a fireplace. With poor, let me tell you, there's no fireplace. Come down to the park. Come to the subway stations after dark. Come down to where they sleep in cardboard boxes. I'll show you poor. There was once a middle-class girl as beautiful as she was good. Stop right there. I think we can cut out the beautiful, don't you? Women these days have to deal with too many intimidating physical role models as it is. What with these bimbos in the ads. Can't you make her, well, more average? There was once a girl who was a little overweight and whose front teeth stuck out who... I don't think it's nice to make fun of people's appearances. Plus, you're encouraging anorexia. I wasn't making fun, I was just describing. Skip the description. Description oppresses, but you can say what color she was. What color? You know, black, white, red, brown, yellow. Those are the choices. And I'm telling you right now, I've had enough of white. Dominant culture this, dominant culture that. I don't know what color. Well, it would probably be your color, wouldn't it? But this isn't about me, it's about this girl. Everything's about you. Sounds to me like you don't want to hear this story at all. Oh well, go on. You can make her ethnic, that might help. There was once a girl of indeterminate descent, as average looking as she was good, who lived with her wicked... Another thing. Good and wicked. Don't you think you should transcend these puritanical judgmental moralistic epitaphs? I mean, so much of that is conditioning, isn't it? There was once a girl, as average looking as she was well-adjusted, who lived with her stepmother, who was not a very open and loving person because she herself had been abused in childhood. Better, but I am so tired of negative female images, and stepmothers, they always get it in the neck. Change it to stepfather, won't you? That would make more sense anyway, considering the bad behavior you're about to describe. And throw in some whips and chains. We all know what those twisted, repressed middle-aged men are like. Hey, just a minute. I'm a middle-aged stuff-it Mr. Nosy Parker. Nobody asked you to stick it in your oar, or whatever you want to call that thing. This is between the two of us. Go on. There was once a girl. How old was she? I don't know. She was young? This ends with a marriage, right? Well, not to blow the plot, but yes. Then you can scratch the condescending paternalistic terminology. It's woman, pal. Woman. There was once... What's with this? Once. Enough of the dead past. Tell me about now. There. So? So what? So why not here? I enjoy Margaret Atwood an awful lot. All right, last two. That over there. The Mermaid and the Glass Mustang, Ophelia Spracklin. That's a good name. Retrieved from bbc.co.uk for their 500 words contest. On the shelf in the bedroom was an old tin box. On the lid was a picture of the sea, rocky cliffs leading down to the white sand with waves breaking gently on the beach. It was a holiday souvenir from years ago, and once contained biscuits. On the inside of the lid was the same picture of the sea, but on one of the rocks sat a mermaid, looking towards the beach, smiling and waving, her golden hair blowing in the breeze. Inside the box lived the Glass Mustang, who was magnificent, with a long, flowing mane. The rest of his glass herd lived outside the box, arranged on the shelf, grazing the varnish. But he didn't live with them anymore. One night he had galloped too close to the edge of the shelf and had fallen onto the dresser below, and one of his legs had snapped completely off. Now he lived in the old tin box along with a collection of other forgotten items, including a small doll wearing Welsh national dress, and a pincushion in the shape of a ladybird. The doll and the ladybird had both seen better days. Their stitching was loose, and the doll had lost a shoe. And they liked nothing better than to torment the poor Glass Mustang. One day, said the Glass Mustang, I'm going to jump off that rocky cliff into the sea and gallop in the waves with my friend the mermaid. Look, she's waving at me. Don't be ridiculous, said the ladybird pincushion haughtily. She isn't even real. Mermaids don't exist. In any case, said the doll in her prim Welsh accent, how are you ever going to gallop again when you only have 3 legs? How foolish of you to fall off the shelf. Yes, how foolish, echoed the ladybird pincushion, and they both laughed. The Glass Mustang said nothing and looked longingly out to the sea. On the day of the party, birthday cards appeared on the shelf, blocking the view from the tin. When the cards were eventually taken down, there was a new addition to the bedroom. On the dresser under the shelf was a shining glass bowl with a bright orange fish circling round and round, opening and closing its mouth. As the Glass Mustang peered over the edge of the old tin box, to his amazement, there in the bowl gazing up at him was his friend the mermaid, sitting on her rock, brushing her hair. Jump, she called and waved. Don't be foolish, mocked the Welsh doll. Remember what happened last time? The Glass Mustang wasn't afraid. He gathered all his strength and in one giant leap jumped out of the old tin box and landed, splash, beside his friend the mermaid. In the water, the Glass Mustang found it didn't matter that one of his legs was missing. And he and his friend the mermaid galloped and played in the water forever. Very Velveteen Rabbits. All right, last one. Looking small means another small fiction. And then I get to go babysit. What's the knob do? Well, when I turn it this way, everything seems okay. What if you turn it the other way? Why would I do that? I love all the tongue-in-cheek of small fiction. All right, so that's that. Oh man, look at this. I can't see my screen. There's a pop-up in front of mine. Oh, look at that whip. Oh, so good. So good. Also delicious. So that does it for today. I will probably be back with a different type of video at some point this week, maybe. We'll see. Let us know if you have any ideas down in the comments. I've been scratching my head trying to think of something, but failing miserably. But yeah, stay well, stay safe, and we will hopefully see you sooner rather than later. We'll keep you up to date. Keep checking our Facebook. Email us if you have questions. We don't have people in the building anymore. We're still trying to check our phone messages, but email is much easier. Or Facebook message. You can Facebook message our page, and one of us will get back to you. And that's it for right now. So I hope y'all have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever it is, wherever you are right now. And I'll see you next time.